I am a founder member and now president of a non-profit company called Inter-Institutional Inclusive Innovation Center. Cut it 75%. Let the 25% remain there so that the hive grows again. Current one that I'm doing is actually a hearing disabled person himself.
You just said when we were offline that you don't have TV at home.
Yeah, if you're doing something based on reading something in newspaper, then it is already old, right?
It's already old.
We have a screen at home also, but that's mainly used for karaoke. So me and my wife love doing karaoke.
Okay.
So I think the difference is active versus passive.
Tell me something about your growing up years.
So typical Pune.
Why do people say Pune?
That's
Why
the
not Pune?
That's the original name. Comes from Punya Nagari, right? Punya is the original word. I used to do I've done marathons earlier, but I stopped it before I got injured.
Do you also do something for mental fitness?
Actually not. So I'm not into meditation at all. If you're thinking of 10 things at a time, it can be very stressful because you're doing one thing and you're thinking of the next thing.
Yeah.
As a mechanical engineer, I left CAD to do testing. And people were asking me, so early people were asking me that if you're not a computer science guy, can you do testing? So 98 is when we had started testing. And that is the time internet boom was happening.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Level Up Podcast. On today's episode, I have with me someone who has seen it all, from being a fresher at TCS to being an operator himself, and then today running 2 venture capital funds which are probably over 500 crores. Please welcome Mr. Gireendra. How are you doing today, sir?
Good morning, Devansh. First of all, let me thank you for inviting me here. It's a great pleasure to be here. Great to be talking to you.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot for coming all the way from Pune to Mumbai, and you're in our studio. And it's going to be very good fun. I'm going to have a lot of fun interacting, and I hope that you do the same. Tell me, how are you doing today, sir?
Fantastic. As you know, probably I'm quite a regular traveler to Mumbai, and I'm glad that you could accommodate my schedule and plan this podcast on a Thursday. So I'm thankful for that. So I'm looking forward to our discussion today. Yes.
Great. All right. So we're going to do this a little differently. Okay. See, people probably, I know you're not very active on social media, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But people know about you, right? In the startup ecosystem, they know about Gireendra. They know what is Pentathlon. They know what is IIT Hub also now, right? But probably, we don't know more about you as a person, right? So let's try to know a little bit from that angle. Tell me something about yourself that probably is not there in the mainstream media, which people don't know, which you're probably in your portfolio companies don't know, but that's something we would really like to know.
Oh, sure. You're right that I'm not so much on social media. The only social media I used is probably LinkedIn, which I use quite actively. We write a lot of things. I myself write a lot of articles, but these are more to do with businesses rather than the personal interest. However, people are aware in at least the closer network about the other things that I'm doing. There are some personal hobbies. There are some social activities. So apart from the let's say for-profit activities such as the Pentathlon Ventures Fund or the Ideas to Impacts Hub that you have been to yourself, which has become quite a hotspot for tech startups in Pune. So those are the things that Ideas to Impacts and Pentathlon are the for-profits. But I am also active with some non-profit activities which are really close to heart.
Okay.
I am a founder member and now president of a non-profit company called Inter-Institutional Inclusive Innovation Center. Don't worry about this big name. It's called I4C. I4C for short. We are the people behind the Smart India Hackathon, for example. Our focus is student innovation, and we have really done a lot of work over the last 5-6 years in terms of how to inculcate innovation into students, not just be satisfied with degrees that they're going to get. And as we know, as we go along, just degrees and just classroom is not going to help. So we are running these hackathons, not just the Smart India Hackathon, which is of course the most well-known one. It is now taken over by the government, although we are still the knowledge partners. So that's success of what we started. We still have volunteers who head the centers when these Smart India Hackathons happen all over India. So we are very well known for that, but we have done these for other organizations also, such as NPCI, such as ARAI, and so on. So we are known for that. We are also now starting programs which are not just hackathon-like events, but ongoing employability in new age technologies for engineering students. And we are focusing on actually not software, but core engineering, which is kind of taken a backseat now and so important. So that program is called Vidya Leap, and we have just started that. So a lot going on the student innovation front. There's another one, which is, these are all adjacent spaces, as you can realize. It's to the startup ecosystem that I run. So I'm not doing completely different things.
But these are all non-profit.
These are non-profit activities. I do it in my separate time. And so the second activity I was going to talk about is social innovation. So there's a large think tank in Pune called Pune International Center, which I'm a member of for the last 7-8 years. It's started by Dr. Mashelkar and Dr. Vijay Kelkar, all Padma Vibhushan, all very well-known people. But I'm part of what is called the Social Innovation Lab there. And every year we run an event called National Conference for Social Innovation. And in that event, we invite applications from social entrepreneurs all over India. And we choose 6 tribal and 6 rural and 6 urban social innovators or social entrepreneurs to present as finalists. And after that event is over the next year, we offer them mentorship. This was in response to the fact that we realized that the for-profit startup ecosystem is very well set in terms of all the help that they need. But social entrepreneurs, not so. So we started that as a mentorship program, and not everybody has to do that. Out of 18 this year, I think 12 have agreed. So we do the mentorship program for them, and whatever their need is, whichever point they are at, we agree that what they need to, where they need to be.
Can you give some example of a social innovation that has happened under your watch, under your mentorship?
Sure. So for example, 2 years back, there was a Manipuri entrepreneur who saw the need for financial help to healthcare patients. So patients go to hospital. These are people who don't have any credit rating. So they don't get help from in the NBFCs and so on. Finance for their medical treatments. So Lian is the name of the founder, and his company is called Connect, QONECT. Sitting in Manipur, it's mind-boggling. And he came and he won the competition for the rural area. But he saw that problem, and he himself started out first approaching the hospitals to ask them to give a discount. If his members have their card, they should get a discount. But then they said the discounts is not sufficient. There has to be insurance companies. Finance. Correct. So there has to be NBFCs that have to get involved. There have to be insurance companies that have to get involved. So then now he is onto that journey of how to build the credit rating of these people to get the NBFCs interested. So these are the kind of problems. There was another one very interesting, a Satara district guy who built an organization for Adivasis. The Katkaris that they call in the local in that region. And these guys were only doing fishing in the lake there. You're talking in the Menna lake and so on. And once that lake became private, their source of income was completely cut. So this guy approached DST and trained these Katkaris in wild honey harvesting. So there's a lot of wild honey that gets in, but how do you harvest it non-violently? So what he did was, the method is that you don't burn the hive that you normally do. You cut it 75%. Cut it 75%. Let the 25% remain there so that the hive grows again. So that the bees don't go anywhere else. So that the ecology is not disturbed. You're not killing any bees. So actually on this, and then the honey that is collected is processed and he sells them in the Pune, Mumbai area and so on.
So the 75% that you cut,
you collect the honey.
Burn,
that you collect the honey. Collect the honey, process it and sell it. So it's called non-violent harvesting of it. So, and that creates a livelihood for all the people who are collecting the honey, processing it, and so on. So these are some of the examples that
so these companies have become how big? For example, any number or something?
I mean, for example, this the Manipur guy, I was just talking to him. He has now reached 47,000 members or something like that. When I was mentoring him 2 years back, the number was around 6,000 or 8,000, something like that. So that is.
And he's got NBFCs attached to it.
He has now got NBFCs and insurance companies.
And this is something similar to what this Ashneer Grover has started also.
I didn't know about that.
I think Zero Pay.
Okay.
So this is his new app where he is trying to new platform. I think under that third unicorn venture which he has started.
Okay. No, if that
which
is
about
so,
this medical facility and giving loans in that entire hospital ecosystem, basically the medical ecosystem.
I would be really keen to know if that see, because if that rating is below 750, you don't get any help. And these guys are helping the people who are in the journey of 0 to 600.
Yeah, they are very wrong.
Correct.
They are very
so which means if
they're not even a part of financial inclusion.
Exactly, that's the problem that he's trying to solve. So if this, what you're telling me about, is helpful in that, because I was just talking to Lian saying that trying to do this in Manipur, you can imagine the degree of difficulty goes up so significantly. If you are mainstream, you're doing it somewhere else, you've got the model.
The people are under 600. I think this startup that you said, right, that is similar to what I think Ashneer Grover has recently started, I think called Zero Pay. So they have this platform which is helping the people who are looking for medical loans, hospital loans. So patient loans basically. I don't know if they're covering the entire hospital ecosystem and giving also maybe invoice discounting to hospitals or to vendors. I'm not too sure because I don't think the entire thing is out yet. But yeah, they are doing a similar thing to this Manipur guy.
I mean, the fact that somebody like Ashneer is involved means that the ecosystem is there to support, right?
Yeah.
What we are talking about here is when that ecosystem is not here. So that's the kind of, you can imagine somebody sitting out of Manipur trying to reach out to all kinds of accelerators all over, including PIC, trying to get investors from outside of India. That's real entrepreneurship, but of course a lot of struggle just because where he is and all the things that are happening in Manipur. So that's the kind of companies that who don't get the typical for-profit startup ecosystem platform. That's where we are trying to help. I mean, the current one that I'm doing is actually a hearing disabled person himself, founder, and he has started a company for the disabilities. The idea is either he can have hearing aids or he can have cochlear implants. His point is that it's not enough to just have that. There is a training and required later on for the rehabilitation of those. If you don't do that, even that doesn't work. And he himself has seen that. So he's building that training program or the rehabilitation.
You guys support him with what? Is it capital? Is it mentorship? Is it office space, location?
Correct. So typically these are running companies. They may not need a space, but we ask them actually, what is it that they're looking for from this mentorship? Some of them may say funding, some of them may say networking. So for example, PIC is a very powerful body that way because there are 450 very prominent members. So if you need access to government, if you need access to industry, to CSR, then it's a very powerful forum. So some people need that. Some people need just operational help because in our mentoring team there are marketing experts, there is manufacturing or operational experts, there are funding people like us and so on. So there is a mix that is available. So depending on what they need, we agree on what their journey should be with us. And then we try to achieve.
Okay, got it. You just said when we were offline that you don't have TV at home, you don't have newspapers. So tell me something about that. Aaj ke zamane mein, how do you manage that?
Okay.
Actually, probably even your wife, how does she manage that?
I mean, of course, all of us have to agree to do that, even our kids. That's why it happened. No, interestingly, somebody was telling me the other day, he was saying, complaining that the news on the TV are so depressing these days.
Yeah.
I said, is that so? I don't know. So I'm probably better off not watching those.
Sometimes it's better when you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of it, I mean, for maybe what you're saying, a little bit of information, you have to go through so much of noise. The efficiency ratios are just too poor to look into that. So, I mean, the important news do come to you. And I've always said it, for your entrepreneurship or for your business, if you're doing something based on reading something in newspaper, then it is already old, right?
It's already old. It's already happened.
So correct, already happened. So whatever your information is, has to be by meeting people. That's where, I'm meeting my startups, I'm meeting other funds, I'm meeting people like yourself. So when you're meeting a lot of people, that's where you are getting really what is happening new, not by
and I also feel by watching some good content, maybe on YouTube, on podcasts or something like that.
So typically I tend to do that with referral. Somebody refers and so on and so forth, because otherwise there is a lot of noise there as well. So I'm not on too many WhatsApp groups or something like that. So certainly I stay away from the noisy ones, where there are all kinds of arguments going all the time. So in fact, my rule is that if any argument starts, I leave that group. So, because then it's not worth it. So that way, I think, you save a lot of time and try to focus.
Yeah, I think I agree, because this is one kind of a rule which even I have tried to develop, at least for myself, and even in my family. So, we don't watch news. We have of course we have a TV and everything. And I really like watching TV. I really like watching something entertaining on TV in my free time, right? But I don't like watching news and stuff like that. So we keep that off. But agar entertainment hai, movie hai, series hai, so that is something like a weekend kind of a thing which I generally like. But otherwise, as I said, right, that I like to watch a lot of content on what do you call business, entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I read a lot.
Funding,
so correct.
Spirituality, growth mindset kind of a thing, right? So I watch podcasts on YouTube on those kind of stuffs, educate myself on some new tech that is coming or something, because there are multiple channels on YouTube. You won't get that on mainstream media, but on YouTube you will get a lot of good content which can really match what how you want to really upskill yourself. You want to
maybe I should explore that, but I have not been too much of watcher of YouTube videos. We have a screen at home also, but that's mainly used for karaoke. So me and my wife love doing karaoke. So I think the difference is active versus passive. The entertainment,
that's true.
Instead of passive entertainment, you want to do something that is active, and that really is
so
good.
I do passive entertainment and active content or knowledge on screen, basically.
You should try karaoke. It's really fun. So, and that's a good thing to do as a family and so
as
on.
A couple or so
good
activity.
A very good activity. I really like that. Otherwise, IPL is going on and all of that. So, I mean, who needs, frankly speaking, all that artificial excitement, right? I mean, you can do much better. So, I don't miss watching IPL on TV or things like that and so on. But reading books is, I'm a big avid reader of books. In fact, I keep a list of all the good books that I've read and I've liked.
Which is the current one you're reading?
The current one that I'm reading is Abhijit Banerjee and Duflo, Ether Duflo. These are the Nobel Prize winning couple, if you've heard of them. So the name of the book is Poor Economics. So these guys are very famous. And what I've found is this is like the second or third Nobel Prize winner that I'm reading. Earlier it was Amartya Sen. And I find that the real experts, they explain the topic so well that laymen like us can understand. So my theory has become that if somebody says that, it's too complex to explain, then the speaker doesn't know enough about it. If you're really good and if you're really an expert, you can explain it to a child also. And that's what these guys have done really well. So Amartya Sen also had the same experience.
Topic, but
it's a complex topic,
really well.
but explained really well. And that's how it should be. So that's the book I'm currently reading. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And mainly I read non-fiction. I don't read fiction too much. There's a bunch of autobiographies and bunch of like you said, on science and philosophy and so on, Einstein. So there is I like to always have one book that I'm reading.
You are reading.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Tell me something about your growing up years. How you as a kid and then teenage, etc.
Okay. So typical Pune. So I grew up.
Why do people say Pune?
That's
why not Pune?
That's the original name.
That's the original name. Is Pune.
Pune, yes. Is the original.
I keep hearing even this on Shark Tank, right? This Namita Thapar. So she keeps saying Pune. Even if someone says Pune, so she keeps saying Pune. So
no, if you read writing in Marathi, it's not na, it's na. So it comes from Punya Nagari, right? Punya is the original word. So Punya Nagari became Pune. So,
Pune.
Yeah. Okay. So my father was a professor in the College of Engineering, Pune. So I was born in Kolhapur, where my mother comes from, and brought up entirely in Pune. So I went to a school called Jnana Prabodhini, which is quite a famous school in Pune. Small school, but very famous school, which focuses on all-round development. And the other thing they do is make you aware of all the things that are happening around you. So you become very socially aware, and you know of the problems that are happening around you. As a child growing, so it was never just classroom. You're always going out, meeting
How
people.
do they do that?
Because that's that's why the school was formed. I mean, that is what. So we have a school, but for example, in the winters we would have something called Hiwari Shibir. So you'll have time given for sports, because that time the winter seasons are good for health kind of things. Then during the year there will be some projects to be done, assignments to be done, which is going out and researching some problem.
And this is when are you talking about?
This is 74 to 80 that I was in the school. Yeah.
Wow. So
And
it
now
was
also
that much progressive in thinking that okay, these are the learning and development stuffs that needs to be happened with a child.
Even better, my son also went to the same school, and there they had a topic about expressing yourself. So apart from the curriculum and everything, so you write, and whether it is painting or something, writing. My son, elder one, chose writing. Ended up writing a book in the 10th standard, which was a math fiction. So just as you have science fiction, you have math fiction. The hero and the villain are fighting on math quizzes because he was a math guy. He represented India in the maths Olympiad, and then he went on to go to pure maths undergrad and applied maths PhD in Berkeley and Stanford and so on. Become a climate scientist in Singapore now. He's in Singapore now. So with that kind of a math background, he ended up writing a math fiction book which we published. So the book is actually published called the. So this is the kind of things that the school did. So from the early childhood, I didn't become a champion sports person, but I was always very active physically, and that to me is continuing right now. So I'm a big fitness freak. Not, yeah. So I shared a video with you that is about somebody wanted to interview me on how do you keep a full professional life and still remain fit. So the idea is not to become a champion in some sport.
Yeah, but to remain fit. So that,
correct. I used to do, I've done marathons earlier, but I stopped it before I got injured, right? Everybody stops marathon after they get injured, I stopped. But now I have a routine which is now 17-year-old. And every morning I have to do that. And in fact,
what is that?
So I do, it's my own exercise routine, alternately upper body, lower body. At home. I just do cycling outside because I don't like machines too much. But when I'm traveling, then that cycling can be in the gym. But other than that, there is no machine involved. It's on push-ups, crunches, those kind of things, arches. So everything that you can do with your own body weight. I think the trick Devansh is doing it for 17 years. It's not what exercises you do. Anything you do regularly for 17 years will show results. Yeah. And that's why that podcast, somebody interviewed me for that. And then, I ended up doing that podcast. So that I, even today I had to, get up early to do that.
That has started
because of the school's regime of definitely. In the evening, we always were on the playground. The school had that. So after school, we were on the playground. So that inculcated that habit of So that inculcated that habit of doing something physically, and I've been doing that, and it really helps. So again, the fitness is not to be a champion at some sport or something like that, but just to be able to do things that you want to do
regularly. So
So for example, earlier when I was younger, it was more strength, for example, and then when I was running marathon, it was more endurance. Now it is more flexibility because you don't want back injury or something like that. Correct. Yeah. So that is the entire focus, that you should be able to do things that you want to do. The physical fitness should not come in the way of what you want to do. And that is,
I think that's why you're being able to travel so much. You probably
energy levels definitely.
Energy levels are high. You can really because I've seen. I think we had spoken once when I was in your office that you are one day out here. Pune mein aap hardly rehte ho. Sometimes you are here.
I'm traveling quite a bit.
Sometimes you're Mumbai. Sometimes.
Yeah. So the travel is there, and I like traveling. So that is another thing that we do with the family. So we've been to a lot of different places, but I don't mind travel at all for work or for with the family. That is one thing which is the energy level. The stress levels also. So I feel that if you're physically fit, you can manage or handle higher stress than if you're not fit. Is my theory. So that way it is something that I've.
Do you also do something for mental fitness?
Actually not. So I'm not into meditation at all. So I feel that whenever I'm cycling or doing some exercise myself, that is the meditation time. So that is where I differ from the standard thing, that I'm not into the meditation part at all. I have not done that. In fact, my school had that also. But they used to have those called upasana. So you do that meditation and all that. So a lot of my schoolmates swear by meditation, but that's one thing I've not done.
You've reached it.
Yeah.
Because I think your fitness, your mantra is more under physical fitness, which you are getting it from
Correct,
your
correct,
daily.
correct. And your solo thinking that needs to happen through meditation, that happens when you're solo there also. So that you're always thinking something, right? So you need to get
But
that solo time.
meditation helps you to stop the thinking or to,
Okay.
to run it by basically. Not stop. Stop is the wrong word, but probably to help you to, if it is coming to you, you let it come, but then you allow it to go. So if it's coming from here, it's going.
Okay,
here,
okay.
so which keeps your head little bit more at peace rather than thinking something. Right, what's my next thing? I have to message someone. I have to read the email.
That is very true. That is very true.
So that meditation helps. So it keeps your mind at peace.
Okay.
So this is what I have observed in my 2.5, 3 years of meditating.
You've done that. Okay.
Yeah.
No, very good.
I do that daily. So
is it okay? So essentially, obviously, anybody would agree that if you're thinking of 10 things at a time, it can be very stressful because you're doing one thing and you're thinking of the next thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're doing 0 things, then that's the best thing. But doing one thing at a time could be the best biomedia, right? Your entire energy is focused on that one thing. So you're not stressed about doing the other 9 things, but you're also do you really need to be at 0? I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert on meditation.
If let's say, for example, if you are, when I used to go to the gym, abhi gym band ho gaya, but let's say if I'm working out on my biceps, right, for example, then the entire attention is there. So it's meditation for the bicep,
okay.
But not for the entire body.
Correct.
And when I'm doing chest press, of course I have to put my focus on the press, right? Otherwise, weight hi gir jayega, I'll be injured. So that time the meditation is happening for the chest, but not for the legs, or not for my, my my mind is completely on the chest. That I have to be out here. But head ka tab meditation nahi ho raha. When is the head meditation happening, or when is the mind meditation or peacefulness for the mind? When it is not thinking anything, not about your chest, not about your bicep, not about your work. So that is the meditation for the head, which I try to do now. So now physical exercise also happens, yoga and little bit of Surya Namaskar, etc. But meditation I'm doing daily.
Very nice.
2.5, 3 years. So it helps to keep little bit that calm and
okay, very good.
So that's one thing. But yeah, please go ahead. So after your school, then college,
so then I went to IIT for my mechanical engineering. So that was 4 years there. IIT Mumbai. First time outside of home and hostel stay, which I think is very good for anybody. Recommended to anybody. So that 4 years of hostel life was very good. You make friends that are still your friends. A lot of connections, or I wouldn't say connections, but friendships that you build,
core friendships,
which are for no particular reason as such, are the ones that remain the strongest. And that has happened even today. That
it's like school.
Correct.
School wale
correct. That WhatsApp group is still is very
no matter
active.
who fights, you don't leave.
No, those fights don't happen. So those fights don't happen at all, and that's why that group has remained. But all the hostel mates from my batch are on that group. So this must be now 35 years back, right? 83 to 87, and now so that group is still strong. Then a couple of years in the US for my masters, as most IITians do.
Yeah.
But that in 89 is when the path diverged. So I came back immediately. I didn't work in the US at all, and all my rest of the trips to the US after that have been on business visa. So I came back and the career has all been in India. So that was a major divergence from the norm. Everybody from IIT went to the US and worked there. I didn't work there after my masters. I came back.
Why? Because
to be honest,
there would be some kind of peer pressure also, maybe.
Absolutely.
There was from parent side, maybe from friend side.
Fortunately for me, not from the parent side at all. They completely fully supported.
But kabhi aisa man mein hua he is going to abroad, he is going to now work, then settle there, and probably now.
So interestingly, my father also, he came from a much what can I say, humble background. He was in a village which had only 200 huts, like the north part of Karnataka and so on. He was the first matriculate from that village. And he went on to become an engineer, COEP, IIT Madras, IIT Bombay, MTech, and then went to PhD to the US also.
Okay, he is also from IIT.
IIT MTech. So 60s mein.
But Mumbai,
IIT Mumbai. Wow. So, and he was a professor in College of Engineering, as I said. He went for his PhD and he had come back. So in our family, it was not a new thing to come back.
But for friends?
For friends, there was tremendous peer pressure. But who knew? I mean, I came back in 89 and 91 the globalization happened. And the next 2 decades have been wonderful for India, right? Even
3-4 decades.
3-4 decades. I mean, especially when I was running my business. First of all, with my kind of background, who would start a business at that time? Because of IT, you at least had an opportunity to start a business. And then, everything was growing because, and Pune grew. If it was not growing, Pune was not growing, then I would have said instead of going to Bangalore or someplace, I could have gone back to the US.
Pune was picking up.
Pune was picking up. So India was picking up, Pune was picking up. My business grew. I did, a couple of things. Like I said, the initial business was CAD/CAM consulting because of mechanical background. But then there was this testing business which really did well, grew to 1,000 people. So all of that really went well, and I enjoyed that. And so, I stuck around. In fact, if you look back,
so you worked at TCS after coming back,
yeah,
right?
For 2.5 years.
For 2.5 years. Then you started your own.
I started on my own.
At this point in time, let's say when you started your own business, right? Which was the first venture you said?
CAD/CAM consulting company.
CAD/CAM. So let's say 3-4 years into CAD/CAM and probably then moving to an
so that was a consulting company called CAD/CAM Carolina. So it was consulting, and we were working with engineering project companies to help them with CAD related automation. So building systems on CAD packages to automate some of their design, detailing.
So CAD is the software which architects use.
Architects use, manufacturing people use, a lot of people use. So AutoCAD is a very common example.
I have heard because my wife is an architect, so I
very good. So these are the tools that you use to do 2D, 3D kind of things, even manufacturing and so on. So I mean, it's a tool. So draftsman can actually build everything manually on that. Whereas if you have design rules and something, you can build automation so that the draftsman, the person.
So you are providing these services to
engineering companies, and Pune has a lot of them, Thermax, Praj, Elecon in Gujarat, so all of these were customers. So that was, but to be honest, I still call it my MBA because I didn't have an MBA and just, doing it.
Absolutely.
And, So that was learning the ropes.
First business lesson was.
Correct. It got merged with a larger entity because some of us got together to build a larger company, and that's how that exit happened. The next step was the testing company. So which I started in, I may have talked to you about it. Verisoft was the name of the company. And it was one of the earliest pure play testing companies in India. And I remember thinking at that time that, I was long enough in software field that to know that testing is critical. Nobody likes to see bugs. But I also see that there is no glamour to it. Nobody wants to do testing. And I remember thinking that if something is critical but doesn't have glamour, it must be a good business opportunity.
Very good money.
That's how it turned out. And initially I was serving the Bay Area companies. This was the internet period, right? 98, 99, 2000. So
and US was, of course,
yes. So these are all these startups.
IT
especially internet. So whatever systems you had, everybody wanted them to be on the web, on the internet, correct? Everybody was doing that. And all these smart guys wanted to build it, but nobody wanted to test it. So we were doing it from here. So that's how the testing business started. But also, in 2001 crashed completely when the internet burst happened. In 1 month, we lost like 90% of our business.
Oh.
So that was...
These were retainer business.
So these were engagements that we were doing for people who were building software and we were testing it.
But so ongoing. Are these retainer or these are project-wise?
That good you asked that question because we cut our teeth early on projects. So we were doing this rather than resourcing. Resourcing came later. So that's how I decided, and it's very interesting, as a mechanical engineer, I left CAD to do testing. When people were asking, it was so early, people were asking me that if you're not a computer science guy, can you do testing? And of course it's
Everyone would have a question.
Yeah, but of course it's now proven that anybody other than computer science guy should be doing the testing because it's ultimately solving for some manufacturing or banking or agricultural problem, right? So whatever problem is being solved, that person has to be doing the testing. So that's what happened with our testing business. We were able to get we got scale because of course we were getting business from all these companies and building products. But we got people who wanted to come into IT and didn't have computer science background. So testing became their entry into IT.
And so you got very good raw fresher talent.
Correct. Fresher or even lateral who were working in some engineering company. So
and when you had started this, how old you were? When you started Verisoft?
I was 65 born, right? So about 33, something like that. Yes. So that journey was not only very good professionally, but I thoroughly enjoyed it also. So growing something,
building something from the scratch.
Absolutely from scratch. I remember all those test cases, test plan documents I prepared by looking at IEEE documents because nothing was available. It was that early. And I mean, if you're thinking that is tough to do, I think that was the only opportunity. If everything was in place, then what was the opportunity for you? So the opportunity was to build all of these things, which we happily did.
And what was the scale you reached by 2014-15?
1,000 people in Pune.
And revenue?
Revenue, see, we are part of a public company, so we are
SQS.
not SQS. SQS is listed on London Stock Exchange. So we didn't talk about Indian revenue as such, but the public company.
But when you sold it to SQS, what was the scale then?
So we did a two-step thing. So initially, they didn't have anybody in India, so they wanted to start. But they wanted me to be around also because it was their first foray into India.
Yeah, of course.
So we did a two-step thing. I didn't sell completely initially. I did the earnout. I could have left any point after those earnout period. We did, earnout went also very well. Very interestingly, we did this merger and acquisition in 2008.
Okay.
Just 2 months before this Lehman thing happened.
Yeah, depression.
So it turned out that one business we had with us, which was games testing, proved to be recession proof.
Oh.
So the games testing, it was so popular that people used to know us for games testing rather than anything else that we were doing. And it was very, very interesting. I still love that games testing team that we had. We used to go to colleges, sponsor the fest, college fest.
Yeah, college
they used to typically have a gaming event there. And all those winners we used to invite to our office to say there are jobs for you. You can test games. And of course, not every gamer can be a tester because you also have to have the patience to stop playing the game and report the bug. So it's not easy. You got to have that patience also.
That gamer mindset does not go easily.
Correct. Imagine playing a game which is going to have bugs one after the other.
Yeah, so your job is to identify the bugs and solve them.
Not solve them, but report them in so much detail that the developer should be able to solve it.
Okay, got it.
The developer must be able to reproduce it, right? Otherwise, that's the challenge of a tester. So game testing was a very interesting business, and that helped us, meet all the earnout requirements and so on. But I stayed on because the company was doing so well. I stayed on for another year till I sold my entire equity, and by that time it was 1,000 people.
Okay.
And I was, of course, part of the global management. I was heading India. We did an acquisition in Chennai. So it was an action-packed period. I really enjoyed all of it.
In 2008, when you had signed the M&A deal, that time what would have been the revenue?
So we were about 150 people at that time, 150. So you can do the math. It's a services company. I don't even remember the numbers now at that time. So 150 people. That grew to about 1,000 people. Okay. So that is where, in that phase is when I started working with startups. So Pune Thai chapter is very active. I was part of the nurture program, and that is how it started.
So you got some little free time post.
Not the free time. It was very active, but I was interested in.
But now, from an operator, your role had little bit.
No, not so at all, because I was still heading the company. But as part of my business, even during the entire Verisop journey, I was very active on the forums. Okay. So I was the chairman of CSI Pune chapter. We had started a forum ourselves called Spin Forum because it was testing related. I was part of Maratha Chamber. I was part of PMI. So I was very active. In fact, for a small company, that is how the world knows you, right?
Yeah, of course.
I'll tell you a funny story. I went to an event there, and then some talk going on. I was not even on the stage. I was in the audience. And I raised a hand and asked my question. There was a reporter there who said to me after that, I see you every time at all the events asking a question, always. So I said, that is why I come. If I'm not coming here just to listen to what is happening. I'm just letting people know that we are such and such and we are doing this and that. We don't have a separate marketing. We are a small company. We don't have a marketing. So I'm the one. So, even from then onwards, my rule is that 50% of my time has to be outside the company. Whether meeting customers or doing this forum activities. So we were very well known in the circle because of that part. Yeah. Just to let you know, this woman reporter, she has now become the head of her newspaper in Pune and so on.
Okay.
She still tracks me, and she's there for the inauguration of the Ideas to Impact Hub building that you saw, for example. So all the events, the acquisition, everything, she has been tracking me and writing about us in the events. So it was not so that I got free or something like that. I always was very active with all these forum activities, and I think all founders must be. We cannot be internally focused.
Correct.
So then that's where the Thai nurture thing happened, and I got involved with the startup
opportunity.
Correct. That's how my first angel investment also happened in a drone company in Pune called Flightbase.
This is
This
14
is
years
15,
back.
16, no, 10 years
2015,
back,
16.
yeah, something like that. Maybe 10 years back, yeah.
Hmm.
Of course, after that, when I left, there were multiple things that I was wanting to do. And you know about the Pentathlon Ventures, you know about Ideas to Impacts Hub, the building and so on. I also started a company called Ideas to Impacts. That was the origin of the term Ideas to Impacts Hub, which was an adjacent space. So what I wanted to do was start a IT services company, which delivers not from the metros, but from the non-metros. That was the whole idea behind Ideas to Impacts as a services company. Our first center was in Rajguru Nagar, which is a taluka place 50 kilometers from Pune.
Okay.
And we got like initial traction of companies like Bajaj Auto and Siemens PLM giving us business to do from there. So that was my new idea behind these Ideas to Impact. Of course, now it has taken much bigger shape. So now there is a group CEO who runs the company. I'm more of a chairman, MD, more of an investor. Because what happened in 2-3 years later was that Pentathlon got off the ground. The venture capital got off the ground. And as you know, I had no background of investing, so it was very good education. And luckily, I got partners who had similar backgrounds. There were other partners who also had their exits, who also wanted to start a fund out of Pune because Pune didn't have a fund. Everything else was there but didn't have a fund. And we are all interested in starting a B2B focused fund. So it all came together.
Because this B2B space
we were all along, and we also, to be honest, were not very clearly understanding how this B2C worked. At that time, all this Flipkart and Ola and all of that, nobody had any exits at that time. They're just raising a lot of money, spending a lot of money, giving discount. So nobody understood that. So B2B is what we wanted to do. Luckily now the picture has completely changed. So now people understand.
Ecosystem has evolved and matured.
Yeah. So and luckily for us that our fund has also gone well. So that's where we got this fund off the ground, proper SEBI registered Cat 1 fund, small fund, 10 million. But in 2019, late 19 is when we got off the ground. Went really well. We made 23 investments. We got one exit. As many as 16 companies raised follow-on rounds. Out of 23, 16. So that's almost become a differentiator for us. So it's not like a typical fund where one unicorn and nobody else does anything, and still the fund returns because there is one unicorn. We don't need one unicorn. We need a much flatter, and that attributable to
that approach is better.
Is what we think. What we think, two things helped us. One is the B2B thing. This can happen only in B2B. This cannot happen in B2C. So B2B can have a much flatter power law, as I call it, and I've written about it in my LinkedIn articles. Rather than one unicorn and then everything flat, you can have much flatter power law. More companies do well. And by the way, they also raised follow-ons at decent multiples. Now that's the other thing. How are they able to raise decent multiples? That just means that 2 years back, when things were going completely crazy, with very high valuations, with very high liquidity, we kept our heads on our shoulders. And that is because of our own founder background of last couple of decades, when there was no VC, there was no
this funding
startup fund. So you had to have revenue, you had to have profitability. So
that is what these guys are following even today as a mantra. You have to have profitability.
Correct. So the founders that we like the founders who think similarly.
Because we are thinking that frugal manner.
Yes. And that's why we didn't, over give valuations which are crazy.
Correct.
So now we are able to have that multiple. The other fact is also B2B versus B2C gives a lot more opportunities for M&A, mergers and acquisitions. You don't hear too many B2C mergers and acquisitions happening. So our first exit also came out of that only. So that's the reason, with B2B we benefited that way, that, we may have exits, and typically that's the way we think, that we are doing seed stage B2B tech, so very early stage, early revenue. We want these companies to be like building point solutions that are leading, in that niche, okay? At a seed stage, companies cannot do too many things at the same time. They cannot be broad. They have to be narrow in a niche, but excelling there. Now, you can take that global, which is our thesis, that we capture these companies young in India, take them global.
So I think that's where the bigger market also.
Correct. So that's the journey of doing Series A, Series B, and get your exit in Series C. That's what happened. That's is happening now in Fund 1. In Fund 1, because now we are in the 4th year, so now the exit has to start, and so we are looking for Series B, Series C companies to give us exit. But the other thing is, a good point solution always has an opportunity to get acquired and become part of a platform. So that M&A opportunity can happen anytime. So that's what happened in a Fund 1. The first acquisition came even before their Series A. And if that happens, your IRR and all those things will only be better because now things are happening better. So this is exactly the thesis that we said last year. No, boss, this is happening well. Let's do a larger fund with the exact same thesis. Series said B2B tech. We're investing the exact same number of companies, 25, but let's do bigger ticket sizes. So that's why we are raising a fund which is like 5.5 times bigger, 450 crores. So now this fund allows us to lead when we are investing, have double-digit equity, and overall have much better outcomes. But it's, the first fund really proved as the proof of concept.
Correct.
We did everything with our own hands. We did it with our own hands. We didn't even have people, analysts in the beginning. It's all partners doing everything with their own hands. When we started the fund 2 journey or started thinking about it, let me say, we realized that, boss, this is a fund house journey. It's not just fund 1, fund 2. So now you need to build teams. So now we have got analysts and all of that. So luckily the space has moved in such a way.
Yeah, it will not just work on 2-3 partners.
Correct. So it is as we are 5 partners even in fund 2. One in the US because now there are US investors also. But analysts, and now you get analysts who are like IIT Mumbai graduates. Our first analyst, an IIT Bombay graduate, has done nothing other than VC in his 5 years after IIT or 6 years after IIT. So we are getting, so everything that you see, it's like growing exponentially. So the founders are now having 1x, 2x experience of startups, which was not the case 5-6 years back. The investors now, there are like 50x. I mean, 5-6 years back, all of us had to come together with our exits, start this first fund out of Pune. Now there are like 50 exits. So what do? Either they start up again or they put money. Correct. So that is good. Everything is going exponential. So we think that we are at the cusp of some virtuous cycle. Everybody believes that Indian seed stage companies will become global leaders in the coming decade. And we as a fund house want to ride this opportunity. So even in the US, we tell them that what we are bringing to you is not some US opportunities. We are bringing you seed stage Indian opportunities.
I think since you are running this fund, etc., and since the time your friends have also migrated many to US and probably they've worked there, etc. Like, so tell me one thing, like today, what is the opportunity? Let's say if there is a fresh IIT grad, he has to go to US, vis-a-vis he has to study here, and what is the difference it was back then, and what is the difference today? Because I think you are having a lot of connections. You discuss with many people back in US, in India. You're raising funds from Indian investors, from US investors. You're supporting companies, Indian companies who are then going global.
Yeah.
What is the opportunity today if a new, a fresh IIT grad or any other grad he has to go abroad, vis-a-vis he has to stay back in India? In terms of complete, मतलब उसको पैसे भी उतने आने चाहिए. He has to have that good job or probably a good business opportunity or something, right? What was it back then when you made your decision to stay here versus when your friends were going abroad? And today, what is that?
No, clearly the job opportunities have increased significantly since the late 80s that we graduated in. Most people in the late 80s, early 90s, whichever stream you came from, looked for software as an opportunity because other jobs are just not there. Mechanical and manufacturing, civil, just not there. So everybody went into software, or they went into management, and they became, the IIT graduates went to IIM, or they went abroad. So people went abroad if they wanted to do engineering because there are lots of engineering jobs and so on. So in India, they would either go to software or go to management and so on. Correct. So the opportunities were very limited. Whereas now the opportunities are much more diverse. In fact, I'm thinking people genuinely now consider a US opportunity or an Indian opportunity the same way because ultimately all of these are global opportunities. It almost doesn't matter where you are physically located. So that way, definitely the opportunities or the options that are in front of people are much better. There's no question. It boils down to now personal factors about where you enjoy living. As opposed to anything that the job forces you to do. In fact, in some cases, one would say that Indian opportunities might even be better than some of the opportunities out there. But it's case to case. One can now actually take a call.
Got it. Okay, tell me one thing. While growing up, right now, your father was a professor again, IIT Mumbai, MTech. You again IIT Mumbai. So while growing up, what was that one core value which probably your father instilled in you, and after you becoming a father, you have instilled that in your both the sons.
Okay. So clearly, academics was quite important. The all-round part was taken care of this by the school itself. Although I remember my parents also encouraging me to music and all of those kind of things. But academics was certainly at the centerpiece. So all three of us, my siblings, did very very well. In fact, my siblings were both merit rank holders and all of that.
Okay,
They became, my sister became a doctor. My brother was also at IIT Mumbai and all that. So academically, we had very sound, and that opened the doors. I mean, clearly, it is not just the degree that you get, but also the kind of institution that you go to, which creates networks that set you up for the next future and all of that. So in that era, academically doing well was the key to success. And in fact, that happened because my father saw it in his own case, right? He came out of that small village because he did well in his, matric. He topped the center. That's opened the door for him to come to COEP and get his degree and so on. So that was very clear. My mother was also a graduate even from that point. So that was the key. What has changed now is academics is not necessarily the key. There are lots of other options that have opened, and you have to be more rounded, for example. So still, both my kids did very well academically, not in the sense of merit rank or something, but they very typical of the new times that they pursued their interest. So my elder son knew
How
that
old are both?
The elder one is 30 now, younger one is 18. There's a big gap of 12 years. But the elder one knew that he wanted to do maths. That's where I told you he wrote the book and he represented India in the Math Olympiad. Younger one represented India in the Informatics Olympiad. His interest was programming. In fact, he got 2 silver medals. So in one competition, he went to Indonesia and then to Hungary. Indian 4-people team goes. So the difference is that at that time, we didn't know whether we were interested in engineering or not, but we had to do engineering, we did well. These guys had a choice. That they said that we are doing maths, I'm not appearing for JEE. The second guy said I'm doing I'm not appearing for JEE. And in our time there's no choice about appearing or not appearing for JEE.
There were very limited options.
Correct. So that has changed. So my thinking for kids now is if I guess lucky that my kids knew what they wanted to do. Some people may take many more years to just find that out, and you may feel that.
What did you instill in them? Academics was the one.
No. So what we said was, whatever you're doing, you excel in that. It was not that you do. For example, if my younger son was doing computer science, obviously you have to do 12th and all of that also, right? But he was completely focused on that. So 12th, though, he did that you don't have to. You cannot push him to do physics and chemistry, all of those other things, because he was focused on computer science. So I think. And I don't even know whether we can take credit for that. The younger generation is such that they know what they're doing and they will do what they're doing. So it's not like you are telling them or whatever it is. You just, as I like to say, you just stay out of the way. And then, let them do that. If they
help them wherever they need that, or they ask you for it.
Pull for help, then they do that. If they have found what they want to do, then they will do. I mean, I remember clearly in both these cases, we had to tell them earlier, why are you playing so much games? Why are you watching so much TV? All of that. Once they got hooked onto whatever their maths or computer science, then they had to be pulled out of that. Forget about telling them to do that. They had to be pulled out. That now stop doing, have your meals or things like that. So it's very important that they find what is of interest to them, and that could take time in some cases.
Got it. Okay, tell me about your, this entire professional career, right, and professional journey that you've been through, what you right now said. You might have gone through, like, in the world, in India, there have been many up cycles, down cycles, right? So tell me about that one down cycle and about one up cycle which you have been through till date, like from your profession, from your business that you started first, and today that you're setting up a fund. What is that one down cycle, one up cycle that you've been through, and what have you learned from both that?
So up cycle and down cycle.
Like, explain me that proper situation.
Sure.
That kya hua tha wo down cycle mein, what you went through. I want to understand the mental fitness, that how you try to cope up with that, and even when that success or up cycle happened, what did you do?
Correct. So I'll tell you the 98 to 2001 period. So 98 is when we had started testing. And that is the time internet boom was happening. So that was the upcycle that happened. So, anywhere we went into the Bay Area and talked about testing, there was work. I remember having 28 startups as my customers for testing. And
all US
all Bay Area, not even US, all Bay Area in that area. And this were acquired like within months. I just went there for a couple of months and so on, because everybody had that need. So, and this was happening new, that internet was new, and so everyone needed testing and all of that. And they were really happy that somebody was taking this dirty work of testing away from them and sitting in India doing that. So they were very happy. So it was very good, upside that during that period. We had access because we had to be sitting in front of them, but the contract was with the larger partners.
So it was a sub mandate given to you.
And that was needed by those companies because
they didn't want to bear fixed cost.
No, they didn't know testing that point. That point testing was new. How to write proposals.
They had the bigger clients.
They had the clients for whom they were doing testing. So we got that opportunity because we had done testing, they had not, and we would write the proposals, and when the work came, we would do the testing. So that was it. Fast forward 3-4 years later, all these large companies figured that they could do the testing business, correct? So all these. So obviously that was a good window of opportunity for us to survive in that period. All of our Bay Area business was gone. So now working with these Indian SIs to do the testing business was the way we survived. But then, this is very interesting that you cannot at any point in business say, okay, now we are done. We can just continue. Things will always go up and down, and you got to find something innovative to do.
So in that upcycle of 98 to 2001, what was your learning? Or what did you probably see in that market that made you realize, okay, this is, that is one lesson that is still there with you?
So the lesson there is really speaking, to start with.
In that down cycle.
I'll talk about both. In the upside, a lot of times I see that you got to take the chance. At that time, I may or may not have the organization
resources
to be able to say that I'll do. But I'm there front-ending, I'm talking to customers and I'll say, we can do it. And then, we were able to build the teams and able to do that. So we could have played safe and said, अरे ये होगा कि नहीं होगा, नहीं करते and all that. But that should be if you're seeing an upswing, if you're seeing an upswing and you're seeing an opportunity, because if you're not doing it, somebody else is going to do it. So it's I remember thinking this, that if that somebody else are they really better than us? Then why should we not take up that opportunity? And that's how we grow. So that is on that upswing.
So that risk-taking mindset.
Risk-taking mindset. Because if you're seeing an opportunity, you have to do everything to grab it. Then you should not be in two minds about safe skills. All of that doesn't make.
Correct.
So now coming to the downswing part of it. Now in the downswing part, there are two things. There's an external thing and then there's an internal thing. So the external thing is that to explore where all could be the opportunities, right? So earlier the mode of getting business was going to Bay Area, talking to companies and getting their business directly. We found this way of working with Indian companies, partnering with them and then getting their business and doing that. So there was one particular case where I'd even pitched to a company saying that why should it always be that development company gets a business and they give out the testing business? Why can't the testing business get the business directly? Because you are the gatekeepers anyway, and we'll get the development done from somebody, but you will get what you want. We had got even one project like that. So you got to, that external part is exploration, what all can happen, because
in the down cycle.
Because you've got to look for new ways of doing things. So that's the one. But internally also is very important that you got to let your team know what's happening. Because everybody's worried, right? Business, whatever we had, we have lost 90%.
So at that point in time, your fixed costs were higher than your revenue that was coming?
Correct. So within a few months, we did find Indian customers, so we didn't, we were able to continue.
Major problem, but yes, there was.
But those few months what would people do? So essentially, my strategy was to keep it completely open to people as to what we are doing. This is a situation. There is no point, in my opinion, to give some kind of a rosy picture that this is going to happen or that is going to happen. Everybody is, seeing the world anyway. So basically, you say this is the problem. This is how we are trying to solve it. And if you do that, then people stick with you, has been my experience. So there is an external part to it and there is an internal part to it also. So these were the two things that had to be done. This continued. I mean, we did get some business from Indian companies and we survived that downturn. However, later on what happened was, as you know, these companies figured in 2-3 years time that they could do this business themselves also. So we also
They
could not.
became competitors.
Exactly. And they would actually hire people from us and so on, right? Because we are the testing. So the thing about that is also not be complacent that now we have survived the downturn, we have found a way, we are looking at these partners and nothing is permanent. So in fact, that games business came out of that. Saying that, these companies, the larger SRs they will never get into games testing. So we have to find a vertical for ourselves.
Our USP.
Which is our own USP. So we looked for various verticals. Figured that if you're talking banking, insurance and all that, all these large companies are not going to do it. So we found gaming as an option. We looked for the kind of customers and customers in that. We looked for partnership with the Sonys, Microsoft, Nintendos of the world who have the devices. And then, purposely said we will try to build a business in this gaming business. And that worked wonders because that practice itself.
That became your hero service.
200 people in that practice at one point, at the peak. Wow. And we were testing.
Just doing game
testing. Okay. So that's the, downswing, upswing, whatever you call it. I mean, if we had not started looking for, and that's the other thing, Devansh, you got to start for new things when the earlier thing is still working well. You cannot wait for the earlier thing to start dwindling and then start looking, because then there is not enough time. So what my strategy has been is to, when something is going well, try to delegate that thing is going well, and you start looking at, as a founder, start looking at something new. Wow. So once this and everything comes down, nothing remains, right? Everything comes down. So by that time we had this games practice, picked up, and that did really well. That helped us get the acquisition.
So how do you identify that? For example, you identified by way of, okay, this is something which is settling as a business or as a service, or your one SKU, or your one product. And then okay, this team can take care of this particular thing.
That is the point. So,
but that regular business is coming, basically. But this can only happen when there's regularity in business, right?
Correct. No, so
if it's like a one-time business or something like that, right? Then how do you identify?
No, so one time you cannot identify. So exactly that. So whatever business I'm saying is settled means that there is, where the customers are, you have the people to get that business.
People.
No. The people in that business would have a salespeople also, would expand that business also. It's not like you are doing the sales all the time, but mainly you're right, that delivery can happen without, correct. So once that is there, then that business can be called settled. And then in fact, that is the best opportunity for those people also. If you are always on top of them, you are not growing and they are also not growing. So it is much better, and that has been my philosophy, that you come out, you start doing something new from scratch and let those people handle it. Whether you think that they're not as good as you or not, doesn't matter. They will learn and they will do that better eventually. As an entrepreneur, your energies and resources are much better utilized for starting something new. That's what you were doing as an entrepreneur, right? So even within a company, rather than running that same thing for another few years, why don't you start doing that? In fact, I did that again later on. So once the game business was settled, then we started the PLM testing business, where again I came out.
What is that?
PLM is product lifecycle management. So it's manufacturing kind of a thing. Siemens is a very big product, and we were getting Siemens testing business. So in that part, so that was the first opportunity in that. So I moved completely myself out of that regular business.
But did you hire a manager or a CEO to handle that business?
No. So I was still the CEO of the company.
The heads were there.
The heads were there.
Who could run it.
Correct. And the PLM business for 6 months or 9 months, I think I ran it completely. Again, got somebody to run that, and then I came out of it. But that initial period, it was very important. See, because entrepreneurs are best for ambiguous things, right? When things are just starting, that is where you cannot leave it to a manager, because managers are good, better than even entrepreneur, to run a settled engine. They can do it much better.
They cannot start an engine.
So starting with whatever that ambiguity is there, that the entrepreneur is better to find. And to be honest, that keeps you also more interested.
It keeps you on your toes.
Exactly. So that is the part I liked. So this is the model that I've generally followed in my entrepreneurial journey.
So the learning in the downside is basically that you need to find ways of how to survive and be an explorer.
Correct. Because you got to explore 10 different things to know that 1 or 2 are going to work.
Which one could work out when the downside is there, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. I think that's quite interesting. I learned something new about this. So great. Coming to your social media game, right? I went through your posts, etc. So you post, on your business, on the fund where you guys have invested, new fund launch and stuff like that. But that's not very regular, right? It is malab, on and off.
Correct.
Right. So why is this? I mean, is it something intentional? Are you not very fond of LinkedIn? Because why I'm asking this also from where this question is coming is that today in the startup ecosystem, in the VC circle, there are so many now fund managers, VCs, angels posting so much on LinkedIn, right? They are all out there. So have you consciously stayed away from this, or or you would want to probably do more? You feel that you should do more. What do you? Because you have an amazing network, and I think it goes back again that you've physically been present at many events and you've interacted. You've been a part of so many networking forums and circles. So I think there your network is very strong physically, but you've kept that. But online, it is still not. You're not very active.
So I feel like I'm quite active. The norm is that you have to write every week and put something out there and so on. So
and I'm saying this because I feel that probably I'm not very active when I am writing daily.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. So this is where I diverge from what people are. I cannot make myself write just for the heck of it. So if you read any of my articles or something, there is something of substance there that I try to. And I mean, I'm sure people. There are prolific people who can think of substantial things to write more frequently, but that is my limitation that I cannot. And if I don't have a thought, then I find it very hard to write something. So, and I write all of the articles myself. Okay, so it's not like somebody else is writing it for me. So which means that of course I can like or comment on some article that Pentathlon somebody else has written. That is there. But if you look at my articles, it takes me 2 or 3 months to get that thought out. And if you see the article, for example, I've written about this SLM, serviceable leadable market. Completely new idea that for seed stage companies, TAM, SAM, SOM, forget about it. It's meaningless for early revenue company to talk about a 50 billion market size and all of that.
It's all in the air.
Correct. So you should consider a small niche where you can lead. So where does this come from? It doesn't come from armchair where I'm sitting and thinking about it. I'm talking to people. That's where these ideas come, and then it gels into some kind of a article, and which is when I write. Now the other, so for example, this first article I wrote, there's so good response that 2 of my investors actually collaborated with me to write how to find an SLM, because they were also they were doing it, and they saw alignment and they did that. So this, in my opinion, cannot happen when you're writing articles lightly. Even the article that I wrote when we did our first launch, which is how we differentiate.
The first fund launch.
First close of our
second fund.
Of the second fund. This is like last October, November timeframe. So that's when we officially launched, because the first close was happened, and then we could start investing. So I clearly identified 4 points that how we were different from others. So that is where this point about the power law, that B2B is different from B2C, flatter power law, you can have larger success. Or there was a point about tech versus use case. So we are not investing in tech itself, but we are investing in the tech disrupting a particular use case. It's a different thing. And that is the reason why we might even miss some Gen AI kind of investments, is what I clearly said. We'll miss those opportunities. So these are the kind of things that I basically come to me because I'm talking to people and playing these out. Some things work, some things don't work, and after that I write that article. So I don't see how I can be more prolific about it, and then because then maybe that's my limitation. Maybe people who are writing it are exposing themselves quite a bit, much more than even me talking to people, reading books, whatever it is, and then these thoughts come. But luckily for us at Pentathlon, there are 5 partners, and so everybody can
Everyone
write. So
has their own network, their own digital game.
Overall, the Pentathlon output could still be satisfactory. But if you're asking me personally, that's the reason that
Okay. In this space, right? Specifically the venture capital space that you are currently very much active in. Whom do you probably consider as or you look up to in terms of a VC fund manager or a VC or something, right? And because you've I think started Pentathlon 4-5 years back. Early stages, I would say, I think in a VC fund life cycle, right? 5 years.
Yes.
So when you see other probably more matured funds, who is your whom do you consider as that? This is someone whom I look up to in this space. Basically, they might be a competitor, but it's a healthy respect that you have for that one or two people as a fund manager. इन्होंने कुछ
Actually, I'll tell you.
What do you learn?
Correct. What I've done is this, and this is true of my earlier entrepreneurial journey also, as it is true for the VC journey also, is that I never had one such person that I would look up to as mentor. I would have 10. So even while I was growing, I had no business background. I would talk to 10 people on an annual basis, and I would take appointment. They will meet me. I'll tell them where my business is. They'll give advice, and that's So this is, some of the names
That's
are now.
Some
of the names that are quite famous, like Anand Deshpande of Persistent or Kishore Patil of KPIT.
Yeah.
These are the kind of people that were my mentors. But it always helps to, I feel, have more than one people, because ultimately every nugget.
Diverse perspectives.
Correct, and then you put it together. Same thing I've done with the VC also. There are about 10 people that I have monthly calls with.
Monthly calls?
Yes, with calendar recurring invite. And they may be junior to me, they may be senior to me, whatever it is. But I talk with, get all of these perspectives, and that's
from
what.
Which industry? Fund?
VC industry. All of these are VC funds.
Okay.
But there are different. Some may be Series B funds, some may be seed kind of funds, some may be running accelerator. But because you're new, you want to get all of these different perspectives. So I talk. I have monthly recurring invites with these people, and I'll talk.
You have only sent them invites.
Yeah. I set up. Correct. Okay. So I talk to a lot of people. Some people I gel with, and then I try to request, let's have recurring calls. Most people accept, and then we can have those calls. So that is a mechanism that
I'm going to do this.
Okay.
You will be my first.
So, but you did ask about there is one person that I look up to, and that would be Nandan Nilekani. We talked about it earlier. And one of the things that I liked about him, and I have asked him this question personally. Personally meaning in a forum when we talked, and then I raised my hand and asked this question. See, his first inning. It was like Infosys, right? How could it be any bigger than that?
With Narayan.
So, the kind of success that they've got. What Nandan has done best is he had a second inning, which was even bigger with Aadhaar and all the things that. I asked him this question: how is it possible that when your first inning was Infosys, you thought of and actually built a second inning that was better than the first inning? This was when I had my exit, so it was a very relevant question for me. And his answer was that you start your second inning as if you're starting from scratch.
Wow.
You have all the background, that experience, but the experience remains.
Counts.
But don't think that you're now, doing that as a second inning. You start from scratch, and you see what he has achieved, right? So that part, I really admire.
And we can see now what you are achieving.
I can only hope, but at least, so fund is that journey for me, right?
Yeah,
you're starting from scratch and you're trying to do. So learning is really what drives, what keeps you interested. So that's where, if something is settled, why keep running that? Try to do something new that gives. That's the same thinking behind running a fund.
These calls are how long? Half an hour, 15 minutes?
Half an hour calls. Yes.
Wow. So that way you can take them from anywhere.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, got it. Quite interesting. This is another good learning. All right. Tell me, I ask this question to all the guests. I'm really intrigued to know about this particular thing, right? Which is the point of money. So tell me which has been your first, what was your first money lesson about money that you learned? From whom it was and when?
Very hard question for me. I'm still not getting what you're getting at. So what do you mean by money?
So money means any lesson that you learned about finance, about money. Something maybe in your teenage years or something. Hard earned, kaise karna hai, savings ke upar, investment. I don't know. So what has been that lesson? So I'll give you my example, right? For me, my first money lesson, it was, when I had received my first stipend when I was doing my articleship, in my CA articleship. It was, I think, 2,500 bucks or something. So that was my first check in a professional career that I have received, right? So my first lesson back then was to save it, and to probably start learning the skills of how to invest, right? So that was my first lesson. Though I had not invested that 2,500, I had put it in my savings account. So my first lesson was कि अच्छा इसको hard earn करके I had to earn that work, and when I had joined my articleship, it was the July to September period, which is the most crucial period in a CA firm's life, so had worked there, like that was like till 12 a.m. 1 a.m. I had worked, and I was a fresher. I didn't know anything about how to do return filing, how to do auditing, nothing. So that was that hard earned money that came, और वो भी आया तो 2000 2005, right? And this I'm talking about 2013 2012 or something, 2012 or 11 or 13, I don't remember. Yeah, so around that. So that was my first money lesson. So what was your money lesson?
To be honest, I mean, I probably not an answer you're expecting, but it is to be completely honest, and I don't want to sound flippant about money and so on, but money has not driven anything for me in my life. So it has always been, what you can learn, as I said earlier, or what you can make a difference to. And if you do that well, then money will follow you, has been my philosophy.
So it has always been a byproduct.
I always a byproduct. Okay. So with due respect to everything that any considers. So that, and luckily that has worked that way also, that you're not focused on the money part only and what you're doing. But for example, you're building an organization, then that's so much more fulfilling and satisfying. Those kind of things, even in a fund. Of course, in a fund, financially, we have VC and all that, of course, you are wanting. So that's a very good point. I'll elaborate on that. So in fact, that is also my money thinking, that, I would be much more careful, responsible, and make sure that the money will grow when I'm dealing with other people's money, rather than if I'm doing my own angel investing. So I put that, whatever my thinking about money in my personal thing, also into this thinking, and that was the reason behind starting the VC fund. Of course, we have invested our own money also, but it is much more like a customer situation that you have in business, that you want to satisfy the customer who's your investor, and that will keep you much more on your toes than saying, oh, I have my own money also there. So that is my thinking, if that answers your question. Yes.
Got it. All right. So let's move to the final bit of this, okay, Giri sir. This is the rapid fire round. Okay.
Tough.
I think we have our coffee mugs also. So be rapid, be quick. All right, let's go. So the first question is, what was your first salary or your pay amount, and what you did with that? I just explained mine. So
2,700.
Okay.
And I don't remember.
More than me. That also, I think, 30 years of 25.
Yeah, this was because I was a master's from the US. Okay. To be honest, I've given it to my parents.
Okay, great. So in today's time, right, studying abroad or India, which is better?
I mean, it's the institution that matters. I won't say India versus abroad. Which institution you're going to matters. There are definitely much better universities outside of India, but you must go to the good universities. Yeah.
Good university. And now I think India is also building that.
Correct.
Though we are not yet there, but I think our university.
So more than a country, it's the institution that you're going to matters. Yes.
And the education level that probably you're going to. Okay, got it. Third one is, again in today's time, building something in abroad or building something in India?
See, ultimately, what are you building? You're solving some problem, correct? And you have to be identifying yourself with the problem. Otherwise, it will not work. So whatever you're picking up, you must be identifying with that. Only then you are the best one to solve it. And only then you will be successful. So if it is abroad, then is there a problem that you are identifying with, is what I will look for. Maybe if I'm in India, I'll identify with the problem that is here.
Okay. But in terms of compliance, in terms of just starting up, in terms of
I don't think you should worry about those things. Ultimately you start with the problem solving, and once you are champion of that problem and you are known for the solution of it, you will find all these compliance answers to all that. You don't start a business because there is compliance or not compliance in it.
Okay, got it. Fair enough. Choose one: ideas to impact or Pentathlon.
To be honest, I've been spending more time on Pentathlon because there was learning in it, right? Because it's a new thing for me, and then I was learning it. So that's why I've been spending much more time on Pentathlon. Though it is also a factor that I've got good people to lead Ideas to Impacts and Ideas to Impacts Hub, and that allowed me to do that. Yes.
Okay, got it. Again, choose one between the two: growth at any cost for a startup, or growth at probably scale but with sustainability.
The scale with sustainability, of course, because growth at, I mean, the way you ask the question, the growth at any cost cannot be an answer, right? Because you're obviously there are pitfalls in which you can.
And that has happened over the past, I would feel.
Yes.
But that has not worked well for so many funds
correct.
for startups.
Correct.
All right. Let's come to the last question, and this is again something which I like to ask from all my guests. Is that what is that one piece of advice that you would give to your own 20-year-old self?
Okay. To be honest, I'm not the type who looks back and says, okay, we should have done it this way or that way or something like that. So that's why I don't have an answer to this question. I mean, whatever you decide is based on whatever was the situation then and what you wanted to do. Okay, so it's a minor point. I wouldn't say it's a big thing.
Sure.
But when I started a business, I had this thought that I should start at the earliest. In fact, specifically before I got married is what I was thinking that I should start that, and which I did. However, it would have helped to have some sales experience before I started my own business. Of course, you learn it later and all of that, but having that, some kind of a rounded experience, not just the development. I had only development experience at that time, and I had started on my business and did that. I had some customer facing, sales kind of an experience that would have helped. So maybe that's one thing that I would change. That if you're getting into
some
business,
learning in sales or customers.
Correct. Yes. Because
some
all
skills,
of that learning, all of that learning happened on my own at my own cost. Whereas it could have been a much better experience to do that in a company.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. Wonderful, Giri sir. Thanks a lot for being on this podcast. I think I got to learn a lot of stuff from you today from this conversation, and I'm sure our viewers would learn and level up their knowledge the way I have done today. Okay. And I'm sure I'm going to implement one or two things that you have said. So thanks a lot for helping me level up my knowledge from your experience, and I hope the viewers also get to do that. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Devansh, for inviting me. It was a blast. I enjoyed it myself.
Great.
And happy to connect with you or anybody else who would have any further questions, because that's learning for me also. Somebody asks a question and challenges me. That's a learning for me also. So I would most welcome any interaction post this podcast.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah. What's up, guys? Before I sign off, I would love to know whether you really liked this video or not. If you did, click on the like button, click on the subscribe button, click on the notification bell so that whenever our video goes live, you are notified first. This would be a really small task for you, but trust me, this would help us a lot in spreading this knowledge world over and helping people level up their knowledge. Signing off, Devansh Lakhani.